This is part 2 of Saudi Arabia Cable 1 from Wikileaks, and this is on the subject of Iran. The King noted that the Iranian Foreign Minister Mukhtar Kai had been sitting in the same seat as Brennan a few moments ago. The King described his conversation with Foreign Minister Mukhtar Kai as a heated exchange, frankly discussing Iran's interference in Arab affairs because of Saudi Arabia's belief in its sovereignty over all Arabs. When challenged by the King on Iranian meddling in Hamas affairs, Mukhtar apparently protested that these are Muslims, in inverted quotes. No, these are Arabs, countered the King. US Persians have no business meddling in the Arab matters. The King said that Iranians wanted to improve relations and that he responded by giving Mukhtar an ultimatum. I will give you 1 year to improve ties. After that it will be the end. Spare us your evil. The King expressed hope that the US would review its Iranian policy and come to the right conclusion. This might be a coded way of saying bomb Iran. Brennan responded that the President was personally reviewing US Iranian policy and wanted to hear the King's thoughts. Abdullah asserted that Iran was trying to set up Hezbollah-like organisations in African countries, observing that the Iranians don't think they are doing anything wrong and don't recognise their mistakes. Also, I said to Mukhtar, that is your problem, recounted the King. Abdullah said that he would favour Rafsanjani as in an Iranian election where he was to run. He described Iran as not a neighbour one wants to see, but a neighbour wants to avoid. He said the Iranians launched missiles with the hope of putting fear into people and the world. A solution to the Arab-Israeli conflict would be a great achievement, the King said, but Iran would find other ways to cause trouble. Iran's goal is to cause problems, he continued. There is no doubt something unstable about them. He had described Iran as adventurous in the negative sense and declared, may God prevent us from falling victim to their evil. Mukhtar had tendered an invitation to visit Iran, but Abdullah said he replied, all I want is for you to spare us your evil. Summarising his history with Iran, Abdullah concluded, we have had correct relations over the years, but the bottom line is they cannot be trusted. An empty channel. The King said that 3 years ago, Iranian Supreme Leader Khomeini had sent his advisor Akbar Velatai with a letter asking for the King Abdullah's agreement to establish a formal back channel for communication between the two leaders. Abdullah said that he agreed and the channel was established, but Velatai and the Saudi Foreign Minister Saud al-Faisal as the points of contact. In the years since, King noted the channel had never been used. The dangerous neighbourhood. Brennan responded that the Saudis lived in a dangerous neighbourhood with Iran across the Gulf, with Saudi Arabia sharing a long land border with Yemen and with a number of other troublesome countries nearby. Brennan noted that we have a lot of work to do in the Middle East together. The King responded that the world's attention was focused on the region. He further stated that he believed the US could help in this sensitive region, but that he should not take matters lightly. Brennan noted that President Obama is fully aware of the dangers in the region, that the US knew it had to remain involved in constructing a solution, and that we would seek the King's counsel in dealing with many issues in the Middle East. The King asked if that included Iran. Brennan responded that it did. Brennan said that he had our eyes wide open to the Iranian ambitions and was not naive to the dangers Iran posed to Saudi Arabia, and that Iran could not be allowed to succeed in its destabilising activities. Brennan observed that the President had ordered a complete review of US-Iran policy and had made references to passages in the President's letter that we need to test Iran's intentions to cease its destabilising behaviour and live up to its international obligations. Brennan further observed that the US-Saudi partnership had to remain strong and that together and with others we needed to thwart Iran's nuclear ambitions. This is important, responded the king. Finally, Brennan said that the president wanted the king to know that he had a good friend in the White House who would be willing to assist in any way that he could. The king thanked Mr. Brennan, said he appreciated the sentiments and that he had great respect for President Obama, and reflected that we had been great friends for many years and remain friends as the disagreements were minor. A reference provided a separate readout on the Iran discussion and the King's meeting with Moktai. In the hands of God and Iran. Brennan expressed the importance the US attaches to achieving peace and stability in Iraq. The King replied that this was in the hands of God, though he agreed that Iraq was vitally important to both the US and Saudi Arabia. The King had also pointed out that some say the US invasion handed Iraq to Iran on a silver platter. This after we fought Saddam Hussein. No more hope for Maliki. The King said that he had no confidence whatsoever in Iraqi Prime Minister Maliki, and the Ambassador Fraker is well aware of my views. The King affirmed they had refused former President Bush's entreaties that he meet with Maliki. The King said that he had met Maliki earlier in Maliki's term of office, and that the King had given him a written list of compliments for the reconciliation in Iraq, but failed to follow through on any of them. For this reason, the King said Maliki had no credibility. I do not trust this man, the King stated. He is an Iranian agent. The King said that he had both Bush and former Vice President Cheney. How can I meet with somebody I don't trust? Maliki has opened the door for Iranian influence in Iraq since taking power. The King said he was not hopeful at all for Maliki or would not meet him. An alert and engaging host. The King said that he misses horses and later talked about the dialogue and reform as duty. In response to Brennan's praise for the King's interfaith dialogue initiative, he committed to advancing rights as reflected by his recent appointment of the first female Deputy Education Minister, and the King said thanks for the sentiment, but I did nothing special, only what I thought was my duty. I believe our duty is determined by God. So those are the views of the Saudi Arabian King, if we are to believe the cable. But also we can see that what I've been saying about Maliki being and Iran taking over Iraq was right. Also that Iran is now setting up Hezbollah organisations in African countries, just as Al-Qaeda has been setting up Al-Qaeda type organisations in African countries, and that Saudi Arabia has been setting up farms and buying land in Africa. So therefore we see again the battle between China, Saudi Arabia, Europe, America, and also, should there ever be a Boer independent republic, the coalescence of many different power plays going on in Africa. Will we see Iran versus Al-Qaeda in Africa? And also, can Iran be stopped from getting a nuclear weapon? All these questions will have to be answered in the fullness of history and time. Thank you for listening to this cable, and there shall be more in the future. Thank you.